Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting. Here's our hosts, Kev O'Neill and Kyle Hunter.
Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. My esteemed colleague is back in the flesh, Bengals fan with the Bengals hat, praying for Super Bowl appearances. Mr. Kyle Hunter, how you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing well. Good to be back here, and I'm hoping the Bengals do a little better than the heartbreak from the Buckeyes, and then also Ohio State's basketball team didn't help anything last night. So hopefully the Bengals can do better. My rooting interests haven't gone great here lately.
Yeah, totally, man. I hope so. I'm actually, believe it or not, moved the Bengals all the way up in my power ratings to number one. So that's kind of crazy. I'm really hoping that they turn out well, and I think they have a good shot at the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they might have two road games, so that's the big thing going on here. I'm getting an echo here, so why don't you talk a little bit about your thoughts about the Bengals, and I'll come in and out.
Okay. Hopefully the echo is not from my end, but I'll talk here about the Bengals here for a second. Bengals, I wasn't thrilled with the whole coin flip thing. I know the Bengals players weren't thrilled about that. I know they have kind of a chip on their shoulder at this point. Burrow's so solid. It's a good Bengals team. Bengals made a run to the Super Bowl last year. I think this year's team is better than last year. That doesn't mean that they'll get to the Super Bowl. Their path is certainly very tough, but the Bengals look like a very tough team here so far this year. I think this is a situation where we've got an NFL playoffs where the AFC is so much more difficult than the NFC. The NFC teams have a pretty big advantage over the AFC teams based on how many of the AFC teams are definitely possible to win it.
Yeah. I mean, the unfortunate part is the AFC is just stronger than the NFC. Let's face it. I mean, the Chiefs, the Bills. I mean, it's tough. Under that it gets a little bit hairy, of course. But just those three teams, Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals, are the top of my power ratings. They're all AFC teams, really, and it goes Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills right now for me. But then you got the Eagles there and a couple others filtering their way down. But it's a massive weekend, Kyle, and I got to tell you, I'm excited. There's been lots of news coming on for potential injuries, and we've seen some of that. We've seen some serious line moves. There's been assumptions made with Tua, and some of those assumptions were unfortunately wrong for some of us. But let's get into that first game, and I'm going to share my screen here. I've got the Betfred odds here showing the San Francisco versus the Seattle, hosting Seattle, -9.5. The totals minus over 42.5, -110 on each side. Kyle, a little rainy on this game, isn't it? I'm going to let you get started on your quick thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an exciting game. I don't think we could say this one's exciting. I kind of wish the Lions had gotten in. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I like the way the Lions were playing at the end of the season. That would have excited me a bit more than Seattle getting in. Seattle was really fortunate to get into this game. I don't know how that one call where it was, I think it was Jalen Ramsey got called for the late hit or personal foul of some kind there on a kind of wacky play. I think Seattle's offense was so much better early in the season. Geno Smith has not played very well at the end of the season. I'll tell you what I like in this game, and I see the number has come down as far as a player prop. I like Geno Smith passing yards under, thinking that he's going to have a tough time in the wind and rain. This total's come down a little bit too. I think that's justified. It was 43 down to 42.5 or 42. We see weather report looking like 55 degrees, maybe about 15 miles per hour wind. Not a horrible weather, but certainly not what you're used to in a game in Santa Clara. This has been a field that's been pretty good to the under in general, based on the grass turf situation there. So I would definitely think San Francisco should win this game. Now, 9.5 points is a pretty big number, laying with Brock Purdy. I don't know what to do with the side, so I'm curious to see what you think on this one.
Yeah, I was tough on this one too because my number's around like 8.75 on this game. Very close to what it is just based on performance. Now, I did bet Seattle in Seattle against Brock Purdy, trying to fade the young quarterback, and I was unfortunately on the wrong end of that, and a really ugly fumble that Seattle did. Probably the end of the second half took me out of that one. It was a score on the fumble, so it was at least a 7-point swing on that one. I don't trust young quarterbacks in the playoffs ever. And that's a massive problem. I would not be shocked if Seattle is in this game. Now, the way to ugly this game up for Seattle is to play like a Tennessee Titans type of game, ugly it up by running the ball. You got one of the best rushers, Walker. They're 4.8 rushing yards per attempt. And it's not like the Niners have that much of a weakness, but maybe you can get that extra push, couple fourth down conversions, slow this game down. And then on defense, there's only one thing you can do against Brock Purdy, and that's stack the box and double up on Kittle, because at least you're doubling up the biggest and best receiver. You have the safety over the top. So it's almost like the way you play Tom Brady. You make Purdy beat you by throwing to the receivers. Now, if he can get it to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, you got to tip your hat to him, because that's your only chance of beating them, because they're going to run all over you if you don't stack that box. And Kittle's going to be wide open, big body, second best tight end in the league, in my opinion. So that's the path to victory. But I don't trust Pete Carroll, because when I first saw them play each other, what did he do? He dropped Geno Smith in 5 and 7 step drops, which take 3 to 5 seconds sometimes to develop a pass. He's getting sacked and fumbling by that point, Kyle. So I don't trust Pete Carroll doing the right thing in this situation. But one thing I did is a very, very contrarian play, and it's a prop play. Everyone's saying Geno Smith is going to throw an interception in this game. Well, I look back, and he threw one against the Niners last game, but he didn't throw one the first game against the Niners. He's only thrown 9 interceptions throughout the year. So his odds, if you say 9 divided by 17, is around 53%. Well, I found some big plus money on it in the plus 134 range of him not to throw an interception. My contrarian view on that, Kyle, is that this is such a big game for Seattle. He's going to try to control the ball a lot more and be a lot safer in his throws. I don't think he's going to be loose and get completely embarrassed like he was last game. So the fact that he threw an interception last game, the fact that he knows what he's up against, I'm actually going to go on the no, which is kind of crazy, but it's not often when you get big plus money on the no for throwing interceptions.
What's the price on the no there?
If you shop around, I found it at 134, plus 134.
Can't blame you with that big of plus money. A lot of times you're going to see, even money or something like that. You would hope that they take some safe passes in the wind and rain in a game like this, and probably run the football quite a bit. So I don't hate that. I also like the Geno Smith under on passing yards. So we've got a couple props we like in this one.
Yeah, and both could work together if he's not throwing the ball a lot, like they're playing like they're supposed to be playing. That's that could correlate a little bit, and that's just all up to Pete Carroll. Now, what I will say is I did see there is weakness with the Niners, and it's their secondary, and Kansas City exposed it. I am wondering if DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett might be a little bit of a sneaky wild card in this one. Can Geno Smith get the ball to them without throwing a pick? I hope so. But, man, I see potential ways that Seattle could be in this game. If this got to 10, Kyle, I think I'm playing Seattle just based upon the size of the game, Brock Purdy in the playoffs. Geno Smith's not a playoff quarterback, but he's been there a lot longer. So that would be my lean for now.
I could see it. I don't think I can bet that. Anoop, thanks for tuning in here from London. Appreciate you tuning in. If you guys have any questions, you can put those in the chat as well. I don't think I can take Seattle in this one. I also think Shanahan's such a good coach. He's a good guy to have as the kind of quarterback whisperer for a guy like Brock Purdy. Not saying Purdy's tremendous or anything, but I think it helps him a lot that he has a coach like Shanahan.
Yeah, fair enough. It's going to be tough to come up with our most likely dog to win outright. We might have to switch it over to hoops for that, but we'll see what we come up with at the end of this show. Chargers, Jacksonville. Share my screen. You're looking at this price has been locked in at 2.5 for about a day and a half, 2 days. There was some Jacksonville money that pushed it down some, and then the Chargers money that pushed it back up was a little bit a head scratcher for me because you got Mike Williams that didn't play, or that still is questionable as he was before. Now, Kyle, I don't think we need to get in the discussion of how stupid Brandon Staley was last week in starting. I think he's probably gotten beat up enough by media members.
I think Williams is. I think the recent update in the last few minutes is Williams is out for this game.
Well, there you go, and I'm shocked that it hasn't affected it. Now, if you like this teaser leg, I do. Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to throw away that game last week. You got two division teams playing for this situation. Dobbs actually had a decent game minus his fumbling. Tennessee outgained him. Trevor Lawrence had a bad game. I just look at this game as two pretty bad defenses. Jacksonville's defense looks a little bit better than what they shown, but the Chargers are like fourth to last in giving up yards per play at 5.9. You know, the good news for this game is you're going to get decent weather in Jacksonville. It's not looking like it's too windy. I think that both these teams, being that they don't face each other a lot, should be able to kind of find holes in each other's defenses. And I love Trevor Lawrence. I think he's just doing a fantastic job this year. But you also got to give the nod to Herbert, because Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. I think that he's had a tough with a lot of injuries to guys like Mike Williams, you know, guys like Everett, you know, guys that he's had to rely on. But the Chargers are a pretty strong team. I like the over. I took the over at 47. It's at 47.5 right now. I still would endorse that over just because of how volatile these teams are and the way that they play. It's going to be a lot of offense. I don't think it's going to be a lot of defense, Kyle. Let's see what your thoughts are, if you would disagree or agree.
I don't disagree, but I worry about Williams being out because Herbert's numbers are a lot worse without Williams on the field. I think I kind of like Jacksonville in this game. This is one where Jacksonville has been very inconsistent. So it's hard to really be excited to bet Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's upside is pretty high. Lawrence didn't play well at all last week. Like you said, if you look at last week, you'd be really worried to bet Jacksonville in this game. But I think the Titans are a well-coached team. Vrabel's good at getting the most out of his team. Like you said, Dobbs actually played pretty well for the majority of that game. I think my favorite bet in this game is Jacksonville. I'm surprised the line's still at 2.5 here. Like you said, it's going to be tough to pick the underdogs this week. We might have to change it to 2.5 or bigger for the underdog. Because I don't know which dog that's a big dog I think really can win outright this weekend. I think that'd be really tough.
I agree.
But yeah, as far as the total, I mean, you took over 47. The thing that's a positive here is both teams play really quickly. I think the Chargers are first in the NFL in tempo, so there'll be plenty of snaps here. I don't know if I can take the over because Staley's done a good job with the defense. We could easily bash Staley for a lot of things, but he has a pretty good defensive mind. So I'm going to be neutral on that total. I don't think I will place a bet on this game.
No, fair enough. I love Jacksonville as a teaser leg, so I am teasing Jacksonville. If it was at the 3, it's a bet, and that's what I said in our show, theoddsbreakers.com, earlier this week. I love Jacksonville. If it's a 3, it's a bet, but right now it's just a perfect teaser, and there's a couple good partners that we're going to get into. So Jaden has the 49ers in the over, and he's got this 6-leg parlay. So Chargers over on the Bills, Vikings to win, Bengals minus 6.5, Cowboys. Hey, good luck, Jaden. I never want to see parlays lose. I always want to see the sports books lose. Even our buddies at Betfred, we need to see them lose too. So Jaden, I wish you best luck on that parlay. Anoop Jethwa said that from London. Said Christian Kirk will have a big game. I don't disagree with that. I think it's going to be a lot of throwing. I think there's holes all over that defense, especially since J.C. Jackson has been gone. So I think Christian Kirk will have a massive game. So I don't disagree with that. I also think maybe a Trevor Lawrence fumble prop could be involved too, because that dude, if he does anything, he tends to not see the pressure coming from the back. And if Bosa's playing, he could possibly whack that ball out as well. So fumble prop would be interesting to look at.
Yeah, Christian Kirk, about 55.5, 56.5 yards. Anoop, I don't mind a Christian Kirk over on receiving yards. Maybe if I do get a little action in this game, I think it probably would be on a prop.
All right, let's move on to the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills are now 13.5 on BetFredSports.com. The total is 43.5. Oh, man, this keeps climbing up and up. I'm going to be honest. I took a bad number on Miami. I really thought this would be the point that Tua would play. There's been a lot of comparisons with Herbert by Miami fans, not everybody else. But now it's kind of like, I thought to myself, and I made a bad call because which doctor is going to clear Tua, especially with how hard the media has come down. But here's a couple of ways that I think that I still could be in this thing, even though the Buffalo Bills might be playing for Hamlin, and I'm so happy that he's okay. God bless that guy. He's back, and he won the game of life, and he's going to hype this team up. But they still have problems on the secondary. A lot of people look at, what Miami's quarterback from Kansas State has done. His name kind of just
Skylar Thompson,
that's right. He has had some bad games. 2 of them were against the Jets. But here's the thing. The Jets have a much better secondary right now, in my opinion, than the Bills. I think because of Micah Hyde and Hamler. Now, is Hyde coming back? I don't know. He's really close to coming back. It should be helpful. So they possibly can go over the top. But one thing that I did like is Mike McDaniel kind of figured out how to play with this team by running the ball. Mostert is banged up. He broke his thumb. I don't know if he plays, but they at least have Jeff Wilson over there. I mean, if they can ugly this game up a little bit and stick with it, the Bills, if any team on a double-digit lead, has been the chokers this year because I burned a few tickets of them, letting teams back in the game, Vikings, Packers. There's plenty other times that they should have put away teams and they did it. So you're having a monster spread right here. What I did, Kyle, is I bought the Bills over team total at 27.5, paid a little extra juice on it, but I did it for the same size bet as I put on Miami at 11. I think this could get massively out of hand too. I don't see the Bills being stopped. I think the weather is good in this game. Miami's defense has been absolutely putrid. They've lost so many guys to injury this year. This should be a free-for-all on the offense of Buffalo Bills. Can Miami keep up with them? We'll see. But that's how I approach this game, Kyle. What are your thoughts?
Tough game, really tough game. Probably if I had to bet all the games except for one, this would be the one I'd want to pass on. As far as the spread here, 13.5. I mean, just a massive number. Skylar Thompson, I was looking at his passing yards prop, and it's 174.5. I knew it'd be really low, but that's about as low as you'll ever see for an NFL.
I don't think he's thrown that many yards in these games he started yet.
I was going to say, I think I'd still take the under, to be fair. And like you said, I think Miami would really want to run the ball, try to play keep away if they can, slow this game down. I don't know what to bet on this game, so I think we should just kind of move on and talk about games I think have more value.
Yeah, let's pass on this one then. Giants, Vikings -3. Here comes the juice a little bit on this side of the Vikings. Let's take a look at it. We're at -115 on the Giants, I should say. Sorry, not the Vikings. Looks like some money comes in on the dog. Kyle, why don't you start with this one? We have a total of 48 points.
All right, so here's my issue with this game, Kiev. If you told me before the playoffs, which teams do you want to fade? The number one team I would say would have been the Vikings. Probably number 2 or 3 would have been the Giants. Given that we're getting 3 points with the Giants, and I really like Dayball. I think he's done such a good job with this team. I tend to want to take the Giants and the points here because I really don't trust that Minnesota defense at all. I think they're very, very weak. We know that Minnesota has that winning record, and I've seen all the social media back and forth between like the Vikings fans and the analytics guys. Vikings fans like, look at our record. The analytics are like they're overrated. I do think they're overrated. They probably got about as good a matchup as they could get in the first game. I don't even know if they can win this game, though. I still like the Giants a bit here. I think they have the better coach. I think Dayball's able to help them enough. I don't think Daniel Jones is that good, but Dayball's good at game planning, putting him in a good position. The Giants defense isn't very good, but it's better than the Vikings defense. You're giving me 3 points. I would take the Giants if I had to take a side here. Now, I'm curious your thought on the total as well. 48. I took the over when these two played in the regular season. It did win. I'm a little worried to take an over 48 in the playoffs. I also think that the Giants might want to kind of run the ball quite a bit here, play slowly. So I'm curious your take on the total as well.
That's a tough one. I let me see what my number is on the total, because this is one that I purposely stayed away because of what you said with Saquon Barkley. So my perfect metric total is 51.9, but that's a perfect situation. I usually take a couple points away from that. So I guess that would make me lean towards that. I can see it, the total hitting at the very end, but they're going to use Saquon Barkley because the Vikings are, pretty weak on defense and weak against the run, and Barkley's gotten them this far. I think you're right. These would be the two teams I would fade, but unfortunately they're playing each other, right? So it put us in that situation where, we can't fade. We have to fade one of them or nothing. I actually took the Giants in this, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, I think the coach is better right now. I think Dayball is a great coach. He's been backdooring the heck out of some people. I think that the Vikings kind of got there based on talent, but now they have some serious offensive line woes. If you look at the injury report, there's 2 or 3 guys that are out. Now, it didn't show up against the Bears because the Bears have some of the guys that play for the Bears shouldn't even be in the NFL that are starting. And I hate to say that as a Bears fan, but I'm happy about our number 1 pick. But Saquon Barkley and the Giants, 4.9 yards per rush. Daniel Jones is figured out. He kind of took that Josh Allen role when Dayball was with the Bills and started running the ball more. A Daniel Jones rushing prop, probably not the worst look in this situation as well. When pressure's on Kirk Cousins, I've seen him act, and it's not good. He tends to screw up. I almost want the Vikings to be leading this game because that's when they crumble. The Vikings can never hold on to a lead, but also when they're down by a lot, they always seem to come back. They're just those weird teams that likes to win games by 1 score. Both of these teams are minus 0.4 yards per play, Kyle. No difference on that. Minnesota's weakness is also against the pass at 7.3 yards per attempt. They allow 4.5 yards per rush. They're all beat up offensive line. I like the Giants. I took them at +3. I think that there's going to be more sharp money coming on. I don't think the public's going to push this up as much as the money coming in on the Giants. So I like the Giants at +3. I played it for a small play of 1.5 stars. And I could see this going to 2.5, so it's not the worst teaser leg either.
Yeah, I agree. I would take the Giants for nothing here in this game. And Kiev, real quick, do you think the Bears will trade away that number 1 pick?
I hope so. Because why would you pick Williams? You have way too much capital. And, you got Irsay already showing his hand by saying, we're going to do whatever it takes to get a go. Right. This is the Colts organization. It's just terrible. You got terrible organizations all over the place. The Bears are going to get they can get Carter, or they can get Williams from Alabama if they go down to 4 or 5. Probably 4 is a little bit more safe. You got Seattle over there. Does Seattle really want a quarterback? I hope not. I kind of like what Geno did this year. But saying that Bryce Young is good or better than Justin Fields is absolute tomfoolery right now, because you don't know that. Bryce Young is 6 feet tall. Fields is 6'3". Fields is faster than Bryce Young. If you saw Fields run the ball, no one can catch the guy. He's an amazing athlete. And if you can just get his passing fixed a little bit, we don't know what he is. So right now, the upside on Fields still higher than Young, just from what he did last year, because the new NFL has to do with quarterbacks running, sliding, being safe, not taking hits. If they can get the money around Justin Fields, I think that's fine. You trade down for sure in that pick, and you get a king's ransom for it.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, some talk about C.J. Stroud, him being a taller quarterback and more of a pocket passer. The Bears have to stick with Justin Fields and put some good players around him. He hasn't really had a fair shot at this point, but he looked pretty good given the situation.
And not only that, you can try to grab a guy in the 4th or 5th. Now, I know everyone hates on Stetson Bennett. He's the same height as Bryce Young, but the dude's a winner. I mean, bring him on your practice squad. Do something, get a couple potential, insurance policies in case Fields doesn't turn out. Maybe that guy's going to turn out. It's kind of like you saw with Brock Purdy this year, like you saw with Bryce Young, right? So, and there's some agreement here from some of the listeners. Anoop says, I'd rather have Hurts than Bryce Young. Of course, I'd way rather have Hurts than Bryce Young right now. Look how he turned out, In Alabama, he lost his job to Tua. He had to go to Oklahoma. Look how Hurts turned out. Just absolutely wonderful. That's the new NFL, a quarterback that can slide out of the pocket to the right like Mahomes does, gets your receivers extra time. And then when the linebacker darts towards you, you toss it to the tight end. That's exactly how to play football these days anyway.
Agree. I think it's a good setup for the Bears. Somehow the Texans blew it enough to let the Bears get that top pick.
That's what you love about bad organizations. They make stupid. I mean, you don't let Lovey coach that last week. What are you doing?
Crazy.
You don't need to do that. Let's move on to a much less important game. The Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm seeing an 8.5 here. So I love that. So I teased Jacksonville for my clients, brought them to plus 8.5 when the Bengals was -7, because I sniffed out this Lamar stuff a while ago. I even took the Bengals at -5.5 earlier this week. As soon as I did that, it went to 6.5, and I had to give it away at 6.5. But I like where I'm sitting here. But I still like the Bengals in a teaser leg if you can find it below the 9, just like you see on Betfred Sports right here. I mean, there's just so many bad things going for the Ravens right now. And if you think that it's only injury related, you're probably watching the wrong things on TV. There's some issues in the back office there. There's issues with the players and what their mindsets are. Now, Baltimore, if they want to be in this game, they're going to have to ugly it up. They're going to have Roquan running wild. They're going to have to run the ball, and be able to run it. But, I mean, if the Bengals are smart, they should expect that and stack the box, and they should be able to get out of this game quickly like they did last week. All those garbage points that happened at the end, the Bengals had them down because Brown was throwing quarterbacks. Now, I don't know if it's Tyler Huntley yet, Kyle, and Harbaugh's shutting his mouth. I guess it will be Tyler Huntley. But I do have an issue with the one thing with the Bengals, and that is a couple injuries that they have. I know that they had lost Lyle Collins earlier this year, and it wasn't even that long ago. But now they're playing without their guard and Alex Kappa. So I was going to ask you, Kyle, what your thoughts on that. I mean, it's not like Burrow has played with good offensive line, especially last year when his offensive line was terrible. But is that enough to keep this thing out of double digits? So I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah, I mean, even without those two guys, the Bengals' offensive line's better than last year. Now, that is not saying much because we saw how bad their offensive line was last year. If they just had a decent offensive line, they would have won the Super Bowl last year. Kind of agree with Anoop that playoff Burrow is really good. Burrow in general is really good. I mean, I think you can only list Patrick Mahomes is better than him. Some people would say Josh Allen, but Burrow's really good. Good pocket presence, such an accurate football that he throws out there every time. I think that the Bengals' upside is a bit limited, especially by Kappa being gone. Kiev, I think Kappa has been the most consistent offensive lineman for the Bengals throughout the course of the season. So, yeah, I definitely hate to see that. On this game specifically, Baltimore's defense is good. Kiev is frozen here, so I don't know if Kiev is still here or not. I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully that'll work itself out. But the Bengals up against a Ravens defense that I think is well coached and very talented. Roquan Smith has really helped them a lot. I think the Ravens can do enough to slow down the Bengals offense here. The question is how many points can the Ravens score in this one, because This is a Ravens offense that with Tyler Huntley is not very good, and with Anthony Brown is really bad. I think Huntley will probably be the starter here, but I would keep an eye on that because I do think there's a pretty big drop off from Huntley down to Anthony Brown. So in this one, I would take the Bengals in a teaser as well. Kiev's going to hop back in here in a minute, I believe. But I think Anoop's asking if Higgins can have a big game. It wouldn't surprise me. Higgins didn't have that good of a game last week. Burrow missed him on a deep pass, and then Higgins dropped a deep ball. I'd be curious what kind of player prop line you see on Higgins. So Anoop, if you see something, drop that in the chat. But I do think Higgins is a second number one receiver really for the Bengals. For most teams, he'd be the number one. I think the Bengals defense is still underrated by many people. Anarumo is a really good defensive mind. Logan Wilson's a great linebacker. DJ Reader is a major run stuffer in the middle, a very good player, underrated by many people. So I like the Bengals a lot in a teaser here, getting it down from 8.5 to 2.5. I don't want to bet minus 8.5. I do want to bet the teaser. Kiev's back, so welcome back, Kiev.
I don't know. I took a drink of my soda, and all of a sudden I disappear. What the heck is going on?
I know. I think we saw you frozen there with your drink of soda, and I was like, all right, we'll just keep this rolling. But fortunately, we're talking about
it was all this Burrow
talk about
that froze my soda.
Right. So I was just saying that I totally agree with you. I wouldn't want to bet minus 8.5, but I really like the teaser quite a bit. I think 8.5 down to 2.5 is a great teaser leg. And I'll tell you which one I put it in a teaser with when we get to that game. But I think that the Bengals are in a good spot to win this game. I think it could be low scoring. The other thing that's good about a teaser here, Kiev, is such a low total. If you can get through 7-3 with the total set at 40.5, I believe. So you see a total like that, you want to tease it through those key numbers. I think this is a tremendous teaser leg.
Completely agree. And it's very low total, 40.5. This tells me that it could be a blowout. Maybe a Ravens team total under is something you want to look at as well, because I don't see them scoring many points in here. I would wonder where that team total would be at. I would say maybe 13 or so, 12.5, something like that.
I'm gonna look while we're talking here on this one. I see Jason also asked about a Dobbins under on rushing. I'm afraid the Ravens. Yeah, I'm afraid that they'll run a lot here. So.
I think that's their only path to victory, and he can break one. I would no, I don't like that under at all.
I think in a game like this, I think that's really tricky because the Ravens want to stall, keep Burrow and the offense off the field. So if they can at all, they're going to try to run. Like I said, DJ Reader's a really good run stuffer. So I don't know if they can have a lot of success running, but they're going to try. As far as this game for the team total, I think it would be what is this spread? It's 8.5. So doing the math in my head here really quick, Kiev, would it be 16.5 or something like that? 16?
Well, that would be 24 to 16, right?
Yeah, so about 16.
That would be 40. So that's a high total. I would definitely lean under. I would assume that it's going to be juiced here, if that's the case, to the team total under. Now some have team totals up. Some actually do not have team totals quite yet. So I'll just kind of look at a few other books here to see what's out there. Let's move on to Tampa Bay versus the Dallas Cowboys are hosting a playoff game. Can you believe this garbage Tampa Bay team this year hosting a playoff game, man? I am so upset with my plus 500, whatever I had, Saints to win that division. I think Saints were the better team that just completely choked that game away. That game doesn't happen. They are probably the ones winning this thing. So that really bugged me. But you got, Tampa, and about TB12. He's a playoff guru. I'm going to let you get started with this one, Kyle, while I look up this team total.
Well, if you have watched Tampa Bay enough this year, then what you should probably do is bet Tampa Bay live once they're losing in this game. And in the fourth quarter, all at once, Tom Brady and Tampa Bay can move the ball when they couldn't the rest of the game. I would want to bet Tampa Bay. I thought it would be bigger than 2.5. Now I know it was 3 and went down to 2.5. I don't trust the Cowboys. I don't know that the Cowboys are as good as a lot of people think are as good as Jerry Jones thinks. I think the Cowboys are a decent team, but we've seen them with some pretty big flaws here at the end of the season. And I'm not saying Dak Prescott is bad, but he's not in the very upper echelon of quarterbacks either. I think Tampa Bay's defense has gotten healthier, and I do think Tampa Bay has some upside. They might not have shown it this year, but it's out there. I would lean Tampa Bay in this game, and I'll tell you, I put Tampa Bay in a teaser with the Bengals and teased them up to the 8.5, and the Bengals down to 2.5. So I think that's really a good 6-point teaser, is putting Tampa Bay, moving them up to 6 points with the Bengals.
Yeah, I have a big problem with this game. I have so many issues. Now, metrically, the Cowboys are favored by 4 or 5 points, just straight metrics from what they did this year. But this is Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. This is Tampa when they're finally more healthy. They're still a little suspect on the offensive line. There's a few guys banged up. I went over that on the podcast earlier this week. But, I think the Shaq Barrett loss really hurts them. Their pass rush shows that it's still top 4 or 5 in the league. I'm not buying that. I think that was just because they were in the NFC South playing Carolina and Atlanta twice and the Saints against Andy Dalton. I think that's why more than anything. So that really hurts them. The problem about the scheme is that the scheme that Tampa runs is a lot better against teams like the Cowboys. When the Cowboys ball hawk, they have to wait for plays to develop, and guys like Diggs, their safeties, they kind of jump up and jump those routes. Well, what Tampa Bay does is they get the ball out of their hands quick and let the players make plays, or they go deep. It's kind of like I compared early in the podcast, like a good NCAA team. They score at the rim or they shoot threes. Well, Tampa Bay will keep your defense honest by throwing deep to Godwin, deep to Julio Jones, deep to Evans, as we saw last week. They'll ignore the middle of the field, and then they'll do those short, just quick, develop plays as you're running full speed. Tom Brady is the best quarterback I've ever seen in doing that. He's done it to Gronk so many times. So the scheme way really favors them. Another thing that favors the Cowboys is Rolstad, the away official. He's the worst away official. We're the best if you bet away teams. 58%, I think, is against the spread for Rolstad. And he does, and I looked at his points. He averages more points for away teams, so that concerns me. Either way, I think all these things kind of mix up, and I think it's a close game. You don't fade a team because they look bad the week before. That's almost the time to get on a team. Like Dallas looked terrible, but they've also looked kind of bad for a few weeks. The Titans game. What was Dak doing against a second string, throwing picks like that? I had to wait to the very end to cover my -9.5 on the Cowboys. That thing closed at 14, and it ended up pushing for people that got that Titans Cowboys game late. So I think it's a close game. I think it's a wonderful teaser leg, but I also think that you're going to see more money coming in on Dallas, Kyle. I think that it's going to go down to pick, or sorry, not Dallas, on Tampa. I think this is going to go down to pick them. And so if you take your teaser leg right now, maybe split it half of that and try to go for a middle, do like a pick 'em on Dallas, come game time, because all that Tom Brady money is going to come in by Monday night, being this is a standalone game, Kyle.
Yeah, I think it'll come in more. I don't know if we get all the way down to pick 'em. That'd be a pretty big move. It'll be interesting to see where that gets.
If it was -2, you still get a 6-point middle there.
Sure. Yeah. What do you think about the total in this game? 45.5. Both teams play relatively quickly, but I kind of lean to an under here. I don't know. What do you think?
First half under is the only way to go in this one because of what you just said about Tom Brady. He can score 2 to 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, being down by 14 to 20 points, and make this a big game of it. So I would say first half under is definitely a strong lean for me in this game. It does seem high, holistically looking at it right now.
Agree.
All right, man. Well, I think we beat NFL to death right now. I'm still looking for this team total. I'm probably just looking in the wrong areas for some reason. I don't know why.
I do see a couple 15.5s. So it looks like 15.5 is kind of prevailing number. Still lean under. Don't know that I love it as much as I still think the Bengals in a teaser is my favorite from that game.
If it's Brown, you better pound that 15.5 under. If it's Huntley, I still like it, but not as much, I guess. But I think I kind of, I think that what we said about the Cowboys and the Tampa Bay, I like that approach to the first half, and I definitely like this team total for Baltimore under as well. So let's move on to some college basketball, Kyle. I've been dying to get into college basketball, and it's finally here, and I'm really happy about it. And we have some pretty big games, coming up this weekend. You picked one that's very intriguing, and I actually covered this a little bit on the podcast. Thank you, Jason. Great insight on all sides and games. So thank you, Jason Ramey, for tuning in here. But you picked, I believe, TCU against Kansas State, correct? And this is a big game. I predict 2.5, minus 2.5 for TCU, but I don't know. Usually we like to go by KenPom numbers in these situations. Kyle, is that fair?
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple other numbers to see what I think this one will be at. I'm seeing probably 2 would be what TCU would be.
I hope it's big.
Yeah, me too. So maybe we're on the same side because I'm looking at TCU in this game. TCU has lost 2 in a row. They need something good to happen. I mean, based on the national championship game and then 2 losses in a row in basketball where they were winning and then blew it at the end. I think they were ahead of Texas by 18 points in the second half or something, and then they blew that one. This is a TCU team that has played well for the course of the season overall. They won at Baylor. They've had some really good neutral site wins, including a win over Iowa, which is looking better as Iowa's playing better here lately. I think Kansas State has been fantastic. Kansas State's talent level, I don't think they're as high as what they're playing right now. I think they're probably near the peak of the market. I think you have to give them a ton of credit for what they've done to this point. But do we really think that Marquise Noel can keep scoring, 30 points every game, 25, 30 points every game? If he does, then it's probably going to lose. If he makes 5 or 6 threes like he's been making every game. But Noel has been inconsistent in past years. He played for Little Rock a couple years ago. And then last year for Kansas State, he was 43 for 130 on 3-pointers, 30.7%. If he's become a 50% shooter like he has here in the last few games, then good for him. I have to take TCU as the side I would bet in this game. I think the situation sets up well as a circle the wagons type of game here for the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I think this nonsense for Kansas City has got to stop. You got to love what Jerome Tang has been doing over there. I'm a fan of him winning, and a lot of these wins are kind of mid-teams, so their record's not too bad. It's not like they're in the 300s like teams like Texas Tech, as Eric said on my show yesterday. They had that nasty loss at Butler, as you can see, but I think they're catching teams by surprise. There's one thing that I love on KenPom that I want to bring up once again into the new year, and that's the luck factor here. And I think the luck factor is a great thing to look at. Kansas State ranks in the top 20 in luck. Now, remember, there's 62. I think the 363rd team's not playing much, but there's 360-some college basketball teams, right? And that's if you're ranking the top 20 in anything, that is significant to what the rest of the league is doing, right? So I think that's important to look at. Kansas State, they play a much faster pace than they have in the past. With Tang, obviously with Bruce Weber, it's certainly a lot slower. Just looking at some of the Bruce Weber years, like 309th in adjusted possession length right here. So you can see the Bruce Weber years, they're playing a lot slower. So they definitely picked up the pace. TCU themselves, very fast team, ranking 30th in average possession length. This could be a shootout, Kyle. It's got the makings of the shootout, but what makes me want to bet TCU is for some of the things I said. I think they've had a harder schedule playing Iowa, playing Providence, playing Utah, playing Baylor, playing Iowa State. They both played Texas, fine. But, in my opinion, TCU's had a little bit harder. They had that. I watched that game Wednesday against Texas. They should have won that game. They were winning by double digits in the first half, and they just completely blew it. I think Jamie Dixon circles the wagons here. I like them all the way up to 3. Anything more, I'm going to have to really do a deeper dive. So I'm hoping that it's a 2, like we said, Kyle.
I think it's about a 2 because of how well Kansas State's played lately. I think that bettors are going to want to take the team that's been getting talked about favorably here lately. Jerome Tang's done an amazing job, maybe the best coaching job in the country, certainly one of the best. But I think that Kansas State's getting a little bit overvalued.
Yeah, and what about the total at 146?
I think the total will be a little lower than 146 here. It might get bet up though, based on what's been happening lately in these two teams' games. TCU's playing much faster than they have been too. If you look back a couple of years ago, remember TCU was a team that stalled consistently. They were in the 300s like 3 years ago, 200s a couple of years ago, even last year. So TCU has picked up their pace a lot. I would want to bet an over if I was betting a total here in this game. So hopefully 144.5 or 145.
Yeah, let's make them not make us bet an over and at 143, 144. Right. You might be forced into this thing. Now I think there's complete agreement on this one. Let's move on to the next game. I picked this game. Baylor is hosting, I believe, Oklahoma State. It's funny to see Baylor in the past the top 20 mark. It's really interesting. They had a little skid here. This is predicting about a 4-point spread at home against Oklahoma State. So another team that I think is a little bit fraudulent is Oklahoma State. They're ranked 30th on KenPom. Why is that? Who would they beat, Kyle? West Virginia at home? Yeah, I'm not that impressed. They lose at home to Texas, who kind of leaks oil with that no coach situation, and lose by 10. They lost to Kansas State, which we already sniffed out a little bit. They played tough at Kansas. I don't think Kansas had their best game at all. But a lot of these wins are just a little bit more fraudulent to me. A lot of these in the 200s. Sam Houston State is 86 somehow. So I think this is a perfect situation for Baylor, because what a lot of people may not factor in looking at this for Baylor is a lot of those guys haven't played full schedules. LJ Cryer. LJ Cryer just came back. LJ Cryer had a couple games that he missed here. He even missed the Tarleton game, but I think this was, affected them a little bit. When he came back, he was a little bit rusty when he played TCU, and they kind of got jumped there. I'm not even sure if Flagler played the full. No, he missed a couple games himself. And I think some of their two best players here, especially when they're guards, they're hurting some of the numbers here for TCU. That's very important to look at. For Baylor, and it's something I'm going to consider. One thing that I like about Baylor is, they've always in the past have been a very strong home team, and they've always covered very well. So, I'm looking at Baylor here. I think that, this could be one of those beatdowns. Haslametrics even has it, Oklahoma State, a higher team. So I think that you're going to get a below 5-point spread. But, just looking at what I know about Baylor, their away home court advantage, 51st. They're better at home. They don't have the momentum right now because of the injuries, but they certainly have the some good record quality and a very solid team. So you can't go away from Baylor. I'm taking Baylor.
Kiev, I'm finding this one really interesting. I see KenPom has 4. Bart Torvik has 2.9 for Baylor, and then Haslametrics with like a 1.2 lead for Baylor. Man, I hope this line is shorter than that 4 that KP has, because I would want to take Baylor. If we see something like 3 or less, I definitely have to bet Baylor in this game. I kind of think that won't happen. It would surprise me if we can get Baylor at 3.5. Probably a 4.5 point line, maybe something like that would be my guess. If that's the case, I might pass. I definitely lean Baylor. Regardless, I think that Oklahoma State is overvalued at this point. Oklahoma State went on the road and beat Wichita State. I think there's a pretty big difference between beating Wichita State on the road and going to Baylor and winning. Baylor's talent level is just so much higher. Baylor's really good on offense, 8th in efficiency on offense, 8th in offensive rebounding, and Oklahoma State's not a very good defensive rebounding team. So I think Baylor will get plenty of shots in this game. The other thing is Baylor turns people over quite a bit. Oklahoma State has no real good point guard that's a good ball handler. They're 335th in turnover percentage on offense. So we agree on both of these. Depending on what the line is, I might not be betting Baylor, but that would be the only side I could take here.
No, without a doubt, man. So let's go hodgepodge a little bit here. Let me pull up the Haslametrics, being that it's so nice to be able to fast forward to Saturday. And, he's got his lines on these games. We can take a look at KenPom and the other sites to kind of see what they were going. This game intrigues me a little bit. This St. Mary's versus San Francisco. I've always loved the Dons, and St. Mary's. I feel like they've gotten a little bit overvalued themselves. I like to see where they are in the luck factor here. They're not popping up here. I mean, they're a solid team. Don't get me wrong. They played some very good defense. The guys are very experienced on St. Mary's, but you're probably looking at a 10-point away spread. Have you done much with St. Mary's or anything in the West Coast or Western Athletic Conference this year, Kyle?
Not very much. San Francisco coming off a tough loss there against Portland last night. They came back from behind, then lost at the end of the game, 92-87. San Francisco has not played very well lately. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Randy Bennett's a fantastic coach. That's the biggest takeaway I have from St. Mary's is he is such a good coach. He does a good job with that team. I'm looking to see, I see Ken Palm has 7. Bart Torvik has 8 in this game. So it's probably going to be about 8 in this game as far as St. Mary's. Having said that, San Francisco has a great home court advantage. And I think the only side I could take would be San Francisco. I like unders in St. Mary's games because of how good they are at controlling the tempo of the game. And 133 is what Ken Palm has. If we get a mid 130s, then I would lean under.
Yeah, why not lean under? Because what you're seeing in San Francisco, a lot of the teams that they play have ran against them. You got Santa Clara, you got your Gonzagas, you got your teams that play quite fast, Utah State. So that's why on defense, the average possession length is quick. And sometimes it's because you play bad defense, Kyle. But what you do see on offense is a slower pace of play on San Francisco. So that throws this adjusted tempo off a little bit. That shades it towards the under a little bit. And then, of course, you have St. Mary's that ranks 355th in adjusted tempo. I did get burned in the second half yesterday against Loyola Marymount, but I can't disagree with you. If this is going to be 133, 134, I can see myself looking more towards the under. This could be a spot where, St. Mary's could be a little flat. I mean, they ripped off 6 nice wins in a row here, so no disagreement there. But there's not anything perfectly in the metrics that tell me that San Francisco has an advantage. I do like Khalil Shabazz. He's been there a while. He's played there a while. Looks like they had some injuries here as well. You can see in the red some of these guys. So definitely got to check the injury report. San Francisco takes a ton of 3-pointers. They rank 4th in 3-point attempts. So St. Mary's pretty good in defense against the 3. They rank 45th. So I expect that to be shut down, probably, which would lean towards the under again, wouldn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, I would think so. I think that this should be a fun game. Kiev, can I bring one up here for you?
Yes, please.
All right, so Wisconsin and Indiana, not just because you're a Wisconsin fan, but both of these teams have had a lot of injuries lately. Indiana has really fallen off badly. Wisconsin with a tough loss there against Michigan State, but Indiana's been blown out there by Penn State. Indiana -5 is what Ken Palm has in this one. What do you think about this game?
It's all about Wally. Is Tyler Wall going to be healthy? I don't know. He is their best player, and it's not close. They're trying their best with guys like Crawl, Klesmit. They just can't do what Wall's been doing. Wall literally keeps them in the game. And me as a Badger alumni and fan, I'm pretty bummed out. It was an ankle roll. I don't think it's a high ankle sprain, but in college hoops, they keep that stuff quiet. They were beating Illinois for a little bit, and they got dominated. And then Michigan State, this game was just ugly. It was one of the most ugliest games. Chucky Hepburn's been a good point guard. He needs to take over more often. He does shoot a great 3-point percentage at 48.5, Kyle. Indiana's been leaking oil themselves. They've been so injured. And guys like Xavier Johnson and Race Thompson were massive to this. I saw this game against Penn State. I saw Penn State just dominate and do whatever they wanted with them. I think that's massive. Wisconsin it should be able to win this game easily if Tyler Wall is playing, but that is a massive thing for me. If it's still a 5-point spread with the way Indiana's been leaking oil, Kyle, man, I still would probably lean Wisconsin even without him. One guy that I really like is Connor Esigian right here. Some people say Esigian. I think it's Esigian, actually. He's a freshman. The kid's got a ton of heart. He's been going in there and playing great. Look at his 3-point percentage, 45.6%. So he's been wonderful at shooting three and just been a great kind of sixth man coming in. I hope Max Klesmit shows up a little bit more. Jordan Davis is no Johnny Davis, all right? That's the twin brother, and the twin brother is stuck still in college because he is nowhere near. He's not going to be as good as Johnny Davis. He's for some reason he didn't get the good genes, I guess, when they were getting handed out before he popped out of the womb. So unfortunately, I do love Wisconsin here just because Indiana is been so overrated throughout the year. And it's the same Indiana. You got Mike Woodson here, completely crumble in the Big Ten regular schedule, look good in the offseason and miss the NCAA tournament. That's what Indiana's been showing us, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't trust Woodson very much at all. So my look was Wisconsin in that game as well. If I can get that many points, that would be my lean there. Let me bring up a under the radar game, Kiev.
Hope it's not Kentucky, Tennessee. Please don't make me talk about Kentucky again.
No Kentucky, Tennessee. That's going to be a big spread. Tennessee's going to be favored by quite a bit. And man, Kentucky, they've got to be better than this. But I want to say North Texas and Florida Atlantic. So Florida Atlantic has been fantastic. How do they 15-1? I think 15-1. Yeah. They just come off a win in overtime at FIU. North Texas, very well coached team. Grant McCaslin's excellent. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in the country. North Texas is going to play their style, and they're going to make you play slow. You're not going to speed them up. 363rd in tempo. I like betting unders with North Texas. They've gotten very low lately. The first game between these two, Florida Atlantic won at North Texas 50-46. Ken Palm's suggesting this will be -5 for Florida Atlantic. I kind of think North Texas plus the points could be a good play, especially because I think under is a decent play in general in North Texas games. So I'm curious if you have any thought here on this Conference USA showdown.
Absolutely. North Texas burned me once this year. I forgot. I think they were just playing such a bad team that they just found it too easy to score. I can't remember which one. It was probably like a November, December game at some point. But, North Texas is pretty decent as an away team, ranking 143rd. The pace dead last. I mean, if they could extend the shot clock by 10 seconds, they would. It's great to have a slow pace if you can hit some shots. So I think that's really important to look at here. North Texas doesn't hit a lot of shots though, and so that's why you're going to see Florida Atlantic being a little bit favored in this game. Haslametrics has Florida Atlantic by 4 point. Roughly 2 points. So, that's the reason. But you also have to say that Florida Atlantic's defense has been, pretty good, at least, ranking 7th in near proximity on defense. They rank 63rd in field goal percentage in general. But I also see, they haven't played a lot of teams. When they played FIU, I had when FIU played FIU, Florida International, I took the team total over for FIU because I wasn't sure about the spread, but FIU played a just great defense there, and it went to overtime, and I still lost it by 1 point. It was 78, Kyle, and I was shocked. I was like, "What is wrong with Florida Atlantic here?" So I almost think that Florida Atlantic might be one of those teams that be a little bit fraudulent themselves. Maybe they rank a little bit high in the luck factor. I don't know where they stand here. North Texas, unfortunately, is kind of high in the luck factor too. So, you're looking at these two teams. One really slows it down. The other team plays a little bit faster, but they also play good defense. You're going to get a low total, so I don't have an opinion, unfortunately, on the side here.
I will tell you, Shot Quality, a site that both of us love, has Florida Atlantic as the 13th luckiest team, according to their luck so far this year, record luck. So I do think Florida Atlantic is a good team. I think they're overvalued at this point. Now the question is, do you want to take North Texas here? I think you want to get at least 5 points. 5 points is a pretty common spread number too, as far as what a game lands on. So if it's 5 or more, I lean North Texas. Also lean the under. So I just think that's a pretty good under the radar game that we always like to bring out.
Well, for sure, Kyle. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful games this weekend, and you and I are going to do our deep dives on Friday night and be up nice and late trying to figure this all out. But I think we covered enough games for the weekend. Now this is the hard part. Most likely dog to win outright. So I think I know what you're going to pick. And let's bring it down to 2.5. So why don't you go first?
I'm going to take Tampa Bay here against Dallas. I mean, you can take either Jacksonville or Tampa Bay in that situation. I'll give you a bonus here because I was thinking about a college basketball team that would be a dog that I think could win outright. I'll take West Virginia against Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off that really tough loss at Kansas. They should have won the game. They didn't win. I think that's a tough spot for them now. So I think West Virginia could win outright, and I like Tampa Bay. I just think that Dallas has proven to not have the playoff pedigree too many times, and up against Tom Brady in that defense, I would have to take Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no doubt. The interesting thing about West Virginia is they're number 12th in away home court. They're away in this game, so they rank 12th. They're a very good away team. Oklahoma only ranks 330th as a home team, so I love that. That's not a bad look at all. It's only going to be about a 3.5 point spread too, so you probably nailed it right there. There you go. It's right in front of your face. I don't have anything for basketball. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the plus 2.5. And what are you going to get? Plus 125, 130, something like that. Jacksonville, they beat the Chargers 32-10 the first meeting. They went to LA and just beat the crap out of them. This was the third game of the season, but I at least have the coach with this team that's been in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. He's got pedigree. He knows how to motivate this team. We have a very bad coach on the side of the Chargers. I see this happening. It's at plus 120, plus 125 right now. Maybe you parlay that with Tampa, and there you go. You can get your bigger dog right going on like that. So those are our dogs most likely to win out, Kyle. Anything else we need to cover?
No, I think we covered a lot here. We covered a lot of ground here in the past hour. So I hope everybody has thought that we gave you some value here today. Like Kiev said, big night coming up. Going to get a little extra caffeine here this evening and get fired up for Kiev. I think tomorrow is the biggest slate of college basketball games there's been so far. So just a massive list of games for tomorrow. So get ready for that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You can check out my work at huntersportspicks.com. Had a great college football season. Now the focus is on college basketball. The NFL, 61% the NFL so far this year. So it's been a great football season. I have a play up for Saturday in the NFL. I'll have plenty of plays up for Saturday in college basketball, certainly. So you can check out that and sign up for the Free Picks newsletter as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks.
Yeah, Kyle's also on the oddsbreakers.com basketball package, yearly package, anything you need. Myself, I was 62% last year during March Madness. It was a wonderful, nice little run there. College basketball's heating back up, 2-1 last night. I'm actually a little bit down, to be honest with you, in college basketball, so I want to be forthright about that. But this is the time that I usually bring myself back up now that I'm understanding these teams, and very excited for a big weekend. And you can get my subscriptions or just our free plays at theoddsbreakers.com. We have great handicappers. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the show or watching the show. If you have any questions for us, you know our Twitter handles. You can also email us and let us know some topics that you would like us to cover in the future. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the weekend and go get some winners.
Thank you for watching Better Odds Sports Betting.